Welcome back dear students. In today's video, I am going to discuss conditional execution in Python, namely if statement, elif statement, chained conditionals and nested conditionals. By the end of this particular class, we will be able to explain the use of conditional statements, explain and use alternative execution, then chained conditional, and lastly the nested condition. Okay, first and foremost, conditional execution. So what a conditional execution? Dear students, normally when we write a program, the program will be executed say in a sequence. The statements will be executed in a sequence of the statements which appears. Whereas in order to write useful programs, we almost always need the ability to check conditions and change the behavior of a program accordingly. Like instead of sequential execution, here and there based on some conditions, we need to execute some part of the code and skip some other part of the code. Or say for example, we need to select one of the two alternatives available based on the conditions. Say means if we don't use any conditional execution, the program will be just a sequential execution. However, the statement appears in a program, so accordingly the execution will take place. But to deviate from a sequential execution, we should have an ability to check some conditions and change the behavior of the sequential execution. That can be achieved using a simplest form of if statement. Conditional execution means based on the condition, some part of the code will be executed. There are different types of conditional statements in Python. The simplest form of a conditional statement is if statement. This is the syntax. If x is greater than 0, then colon. Here, after the colon, whatever the statements we want to execute based on this condition should be written with indentation. The Boolean expression after the if statement is called the condition. Here, if is a keyword and this is the Boolean statement. The Boolean statement after the if means after this whatever we have written here is a condition, and we use a colon to tell the end of condition. This is as per the syntax of a Python. Whenever we write a condition, the colon has to be written. It is must and should. And a line or lines after the if statement are indented. Indented in the sense, dear students, here you can see if statement is here, but this particular print statement is within this. This we call it as a indentation. Any block of statement in Python has to be written with proper indentation. Like say dear students, in case of C, if at all I want to execute some block of statement within a if condition or say some other conditions, there we used flower brackets or braces. But here there is no need of a flower brackets or braces. Just we need to give a proper indentation like this. The meaning here is this particular statement is within this condition. If at all there are many statements, all those statements are exactly below this. So proper indentation is very much important in case of Python. If at all here you are leaving 3 spaces, the next statement also you should leave 3 spaces. Or if you are leaving 1 tab here, for the next statement also you should leave 1 tab. Exactly whatever the say indentation you follow for the first statement, same indentation should be followed for all the statements within that particular block. And this is a if logically, dear students. Say for example, here there is some condition. If x is greater than 0, if this condition is true, yes, then do this. If this particular condition is true, then do something and then proceed. If this condition is false, then without doing anything, just skip something and directly do something else. Means if at all condition is true, then do something before proceed further. Otherwise, it will directly proceed further. The logical condition is true, then the indented statement gets executed. If the logical condition is false, the indented statement is skipped. If whatever the condition we write, if it is true, then the statement or statements within a block will be executed. Otherwise, those statements will be skipped. If statements have the same structure as function definitions or for loops, means the statement same structure means the structure will be something like this. The statements consist of a header line that ends with colon followed by indented block. Here we can see it consists of a header line followed by colon, and after the colon, whatever the statements or block we write, it should be indented. And statements like this are called compound statements because they stretch across more than one line. Whenever a block of statements we are going to write, those block of statements we call as a compound statements. A simple statements is going to stretch only to a one line, whereas the compound statements are nothing but a block of statements which is going to stretch across more than one line. So because of that, whenever we write if statement, say this should be the syntax: if, then some condition, afterwards colon, then whatever we want to write should be indented. If there is only one statement should be indented. If there are more than one statement should be executed with a if condition, then all those statements should be properly indented. There is no limit on a number of statements that can appear in the body of if statement, but there must be at least one statement. Occasionally, it is useful to have a body with no statements, but syntax requires there should be one statement, and as per our logic, we don't want to write any statements. In such cases, we can use a pass statement which does nothing. Like in this, dear students, if x is less than 0, pass. Means pass, it doesn't do anything. Okay. Say like if x is less than 0, say instead of pass, you can write something that need to handle negative values. Because if x is less than 0, nothing but x is a negative number. Say if you don't want to write anything here, then just pass. Means it does nothing. It's like a NOP instruction in case of a microprocessor or microcontroller. If we enter an if statement in Python interpreter, the prompt will change from 3 greater than symbol to 3 dots to indicate we are in the middle of block of statements. Meaning, dear students, so whenever we start entering if statement within a interpreter, say the greater than symbols means this is actually Python interpreter symbol that will change from greater than symbol to 3 dots. What these 3 dots indicates, we are in the middle of entering some block. So whenever a block will start, these 3 dots will going to appear, say which indicates that we are entering some block. And to end the block, we are supposed to leave one line. Okay, that I'll show you. Say now, say when you are using a Python interpreter, we must leave a blank line at the end of block, otherwise a Python will return an error. In this case, x is equal to 3. If x is less than 10, print small. Here later say only print small is within if, and this print done is not within if. But this is going to give a error because after print small, to tell that this is the end of the block, you should leave a one blank line here. What I do, dear students, before I proceed further, I'll show the execution of this and later we'll continue. Right, so I'll start Python 3 interpreter. Now, say same thing. This itself I'll going to enter there. Like say x is equal to some value 3. Whereas when I start writing a if statement, if x is less than 10, then colon. Now you see, instead of 3 greater than symbols, we got 3 dots. The meaning is, we are about to enter a block of the statements. And now, dear students, as a syntax, you are supposed to leave indentation. Without indentation, if you start typing something like say print small, it will going to give you the error. See, the error is indentation error because after the if statement, it requires a indentation. Means how to enter. I'll execute once again. I'll show you once again. X is equal to 3. If x is less than 10. Now here I press a tab or a space. You can give one space or two spaces or three spaces. It depends upon how you want to indent. Simply what I do, I'm going to press a tab. I have pressed a tab. Here I'll write print small. Now, once again you got so when you enter, once again you got 3 dots, means still we are writing a block. If at all I want to terminate the block, if block, you should press one more enter. Otherwise, if you directly type here, like say print done, once again it gives a error because you have not ended a if block. To end a if block, you are supposed to give one new line, means one blank line. Say now I'll show you the proper block. X is equal to once again 3. Now say this is if. Now I'll press a tab. Here print. Let me type a small. Now after this, if at all I want to end this, I'll just press enter. You can see. Means it has executed. Because x is 3, x is less than 10, means 3 is less than 10, it has executed print. It has printed small. Now here whatever I want to write, I can still write. Like say print done. Means this program, say this, whatever the say code was there, I have entered there. Only thing is, if we don't enter a new line after one after the block, it will going to give the error after the end of block. Say what I do, I'll little bit extend the same program, same block of code. X is equal to 3. If x is less than 10, tab. Here say let me write print small. Then one more statement I want to write. Print. This is another statement. Just I am typing something. Even one more I'll write. Print. This is one more. Means after the if, 3 statements are there. Now to end if, I should enter a blank line. Now you can see. This is the end of the if statement. Because say the condition is true, all the statements within if are executed. And if at all say for example, so I'll change the value of x, I'll make it 30 and same program I'll enter. Now dear students, I have entered the same thing. Only thing is earlier x was 3, now x is 30. Now if I give one blank line, the if statement has to execute because x is 30 where x is not less than 10. Obviously all these statements will not be executed. You can see now. Here you got the output whereas here you didn't get. This is how we check a if condition within interpreter. But when it comes to script, say we don't bother about all these things. Even giving a new line is not after the end of block is not mandatory in case of writing script. Whereas in case of interactive mode, means when we type in interpreter, then this is must. After the end of block, we are supposed to give a new line, one blank line. And in case of script, if you give well and good, the readability of the script going to increase. If you don't give also, there is no problem. Hope this is clear to all of you dear students. A blank line at the end of block of statements is not necessary when writing and executing a script, but it may improve readability of our code. Then the second conditional execution is alternative execution. The alternative execution is something like if else. So the simplest form of conditional execution that we have seen is if statement. What if statement does? If the condition is true, it will execute a block, otherwise it will skip that block. Whereas whenever we have based on one condition, say one of the 2 blocks has to be executed or one of the 2 statements have to be executed. In such case, we should go for alternative execution. This is second form of if statement in which there are 2 possibilities and the condition determines which one gets executed. Like the syntax is something like this. If some condition here and if this condition is true, execute this, else execute this. Try to understand the syntax dear students. After if statement, there is a Boolean expression, means a logical expression. After the logical expression, there is a colon. Afterwards, you can have all the statements with proper indentation. Once the if block is over, else, then colon, and after else, you can have all statements with indentation. and how much indentation you will give for if statement, that much indentation must be given even for the statements within else block. Very much important. If you see this statement, x mod 2 is equal to 0, the meaning here is divide means get the remainder. If that remainder is 0, then print even. If the remainder is not 0, then print that as a odd number. It's simple thing. Okay. Say if the condition is false, then second statement is executed. If the condition is true, then the first statement is executed. So this already you know. Say how to enter this particular statement in interpreter, that I'll show you. Here if you see, dear students, x is equal to 5. If x mod 2 is equal to 0, now I'll give a tab, print x is even, then else print x is odd. Now you can see, dear students, here x is odd because x is equal to 5. Okay, so if there is a condition afterwards colon, and if more than one statements are there, all statements should be properly indented here. And even in else block, so you can have more than one statement. It's a very simple thing. Say alternative execution. So you will be having a one condition. Based on one condition, there will be two alternatives, two possibilities. If the condition is true, I'm going to execute a statement or set of statements. If condition is false, I'm going to execute another set of statement or a statement. Hope this is clear to all of you. Since the condition must either be true or false, exactly one alternative will be executed. And this is actually the flowchart for that. If the condition is true, then execute a block of statement. False, then execute another block of statement. The next conditional statements are chained conditional. Sometimes there are more than two possibilities and we need more than two branches. In case of alternative execution, one condition and only two possibilities. But we'll be having a more than one possibilities. In such cases, we need to go for a chained conditionals. One way to express computations like chained conditionals is something like this, using elif statement. Elif is a reserved word or keyword, dear students. Here if you see, first statement will be if statement. If, then condition, semicolon. You can have statements related with if. Later, elif. Elif is a abbreviation of else if. But there is nothing like else if in Python. Else if will be written as elif. Okay, elif is a keyword. Elif x, one more condition, and based on that statement, and so you can have any number of elif like this, any numbers. Okay, so here there is only one elif, but you can have any number of elif. There is no limit on number of elif statements. At the end, there can be a else statement. Else statement or else clause should be there at the end only, but even it is optional. Optional in the sense you can write else statement or you may not write else statement. Okay, so it is optional. So as I told, elif is an abbreviation of else if. Again, exactly one branch will be executed. So how many elif you write, or say the number of, irrespective of number of elif, only one statement will be executed. Say whichever the condition will become true, only that particular statement will be executed and remaining all statements will be skipped. There is no limit on number of elif statements. If there is an else clause, it has to be written at the end and it is optional. Okay, say like here, say if you want me to show, if like x is equal to 10, x is greater than 10, print x is greater than 10. Now here I'll write elif, and what say afterwards you should write conditions. X is, let us consider something I'll write greater than 20. I'll write print x is greater than 20. I can have one more elif x is greater than 30, and here say x is greater than 30. We can have anything, say like at the end, say we can have else, and even after the else there is colon, and here I'll write simple, done. Now to end this, I need to enter a new line, means a one blank line. end. You can see, dear students, what it has printed is done. That means x is 10, which is not greater than 10, which is not greater than 20, which is not greater than 30. Because of that, it has printed just done. Okay. Same is whenever we have many options to execute, then we can go for chained conditionals. The very important thing here that you need to understand, dear students, even though two conditions will be true, like say for example, if x is equal to 30, x is greater than 10 is true, x is greater than 20 is true. If x is 30, x is greater than 10 is true, x is greater than 20 is true, but only x greater than 10 is executed and it will come out of this loop. This particular chain conditions. You need to understand one thing. Whichever the first condition is true, based on that it will execute and come out of this chained block. So as I am telling, if x is 30, two conditions will become true. One is x greater than 10. If x is 30, x will be greater than 10. And even x will be greater than 20. Two statements will become true. But the first, which one will become true, will be executed and it will come out of this particular chained block. This you must understand thoroughly, because when we are arranging the statements, we need to arrange that statement at the top, which we should give a more priority. So this is one of the very important things when you are going to use chained conditionals. Like if at all I want to give a priority to this x is greater than 20, then it should be arranged at the top, means here. Try to understand this and accordingly use this while you are writing a script. Hope this is clear to all of you, dear students. Each condition is checked in order with respect to chained conditionals. Each condition is checked in order. If first is false, then next is checked and so on. It will continue. If one of them is true, the corresponding branch executes and the statement ends. It will not, even though the next statements are true, it will not execute. That's what. Even if more than one condition is true, only the first true branch executes. Okay. So this is actually a flowchart. If condition is true, yes, execute this and come directly out of this. No, then check this. If it is true, execute this, then come out. You can have any number of statements like this, okay, using elif. And at the end, you can have one else, and afterwards, that will be the end of the chained conditionals. So with this, we will proceed further to the last form of conditionals, that is nested conditionals. Nested conditionals is when where we can have a condition within condition. Means one conditional can also be nested within another. If you see this, if x is equal to y, colon, print x and y are equal. Else, if and else are simple form of alternative conditionals. But within else, we have a if else once again. If x is less than y, x is less than y, else x is greater than y. Means if else has been nested within a else statement. Similarly, even if else can be nested within if statement also. The outer conditional contains two branches. The first branch contains a simple statement, whereas the second branch contains another if statement. If you see here, within if there is a simple statement, whereas within else you have one more if else statement. So these two branches are both simple statements. Here one simple statement, here another simple statement. Although they could have been once again you can have a condition within this. Like say if x is less than y, within this you can have one more. So there is no limit. Once again, there is no limit to write a condition within a condition. But when you go on write that, you are supposed to follow proper indentation, one thing, and readability of the program is going to decrease. As a programmer, try to nest as less as possible. Even nesting at one or two levels is acceptable. But if you go on a nest within more than like say 4 levels, 5 levels, then readability of the code is going to decrease. Okay. Actually, there is one simple solution to avoid a nesting that I am going to explain. Although the indentation of statements makes a structure apparent, nested conditionals become difficult to read very quickly. That too, when the level of nesting increases more than 3, it will become difficult to understand what exactly the code is doing. In general, it is good idea to avoid them when we can. It's not that we have to avoid, but if it is possible to avoid, then better it has to be avoided. How we can avoid? Using logical operators often provide a way to simplify nested conditional statements. Like dear students, if you see, for example, we can rewrite this code, below code, using a single conditional statement. What this code is, if if 0 is less than x, if x is less than 10, if 0 is less than x, within this, if x is less than 10, then x is positive single digit number. Means two conditions should become true to execute this statement. What are the two conditions? One is x should be greater than 0, and second one is x should be less than 10. Nothing but x should be a single digit positive number. Here the condition has been nested within another condition, but this can be simply avoided by just using a AND statement like this. Okay, if you see, if 0 is less than x and x is less than 10, print x is positive single digit number. Very simple thing. Like this, by using a proper logical operators, you can avoid a nesting of condition within a condition. Okay, so when we nest, say, look at this. This is the complexity. Here one if statement. Within this we have if and else. Within this, here simple statement is there, whereas within else block we have once again if and else. This is a statement. Within this, if it is true, execute this. If it is false, then here one more condition is that, and based on that condition, it's either true or false. Okay, so this is just a one level of nesting, but if you go on a nesting, say, in many levels, then the complexity or means readability of that particular code will be difficult. Readability will decrease. And dear students, remember one thing, as a programmer, as a developer, you will need to give very much high priority to readability. If your code is not readable, it is not so easy to debug, because testing and debugging are the very important phase of a software development. Okay, so how much time we spend on developing a code, even more than that we'll spend on testing and debugging that code. Some other time I am going to elaborate those things. So I hope this is conditional statements are clear to all of you. Thank you. Thank you for watching.